Emperor Palpatine has a problem with staying dead. After his death on the second Death Star, the galaxy heaved a sigh of relief, but only a mere 6 years later he would return in the form of a younger clone body, commanding a new dark empire from his throne world of Biss. It required Luke temporarily embracing the dark side, and then the combined strength of both Skywalker siblings to ultimately defeat Sidious once and for all. Or at least so they thought. Darth Sidious would return one more time through a broken down and a decrepit clone body. Sidious was vanquished for the last time when he attempted to take the infant Anakin Solo's body, only to be repelled by the Skywalkers. But there was a hidden factor to this ultimate downfall, a secret enemy that not even Palpatine himself knew of or could have predicted. The real cause behind his demise was one of his own royal guards. And not just any royal guard, but a sovereign protector, the best of the best, the ones who were the most loyal to him in all of the Empire. And trust us, this isn't clickbait either. In today's Holocron, we're going to discuss the villainous machinations of Carnor Jax, the Emperor's true murderer. Most interestingly, Carnor Jax got his start as the son of a Thyrisian Sun Guard. They were the men who came before the Royal Guard, the inspiration behind them. The Sun Guard had faithfully served Sidious's own master Darth Plagueis, before falling into his own service following Plagueis' death. Jax's father was executed by Sidious for failing to recover an ancient Sith holocron. It seemed as though Carnor Jax had his destiny laid out before him from the very beginning. Later in life, Jax would join the Stormtrooper Corps, but he proved to be so efficient that he was elevated to becoming a Shadow Trooper. These were the elite stealth units who wore black armor and served under the Black Hole, the Imperial Intelligence Director. Even there, he stood out amongst his peers, and was so selected to go through the training of a Royal Guard. One of the secrets behind his success, though, was that Jax was Force sensitive, using the Force to augment his movements in a more rudimentary way, but it was enough for him to excel to just about any kind of physical training that he undertook. He went through the same training that all the Royal Guards go through. He'd be sent to Yinchor, where he was taught the most dangerous fighting systems in the galaxy, including the lethal Ichani martial art. Although he received training in all manner of weaponry, he specialized in the double vibroblade, which is the most iconic weapon of the Royal Guards. While there, he and the other trainees tested their mettle in the Squall, a fighting arena where they often had to duel one another to severe injury or even death. In the arena, Jax regularly fought and won against another trainee by the name of Kurkanos. But of course, Jax's inherent Force sensitivity gave him an edge. As the initial number of recruits dwindled to a much smaller one, the remaining men were put into pairs in order to learn how to rely on their brothers for support. The trials and training took a drastic step up at this point, so that the pairs would be forced to rely on each other to complete the tasks that were set before them. Jax was paired with another recruit whom he never fully respected, and despite their inability to work together on the level of some of the other pairings, Jax and his partner were able to become one of the last two pairs to survive the training. The other pairing was Kurkanos and another trainee. But their final test and graduation consisted of the pairings each presenting themselves before the Emperor and being commanded to fight their brother to the death. This was the ultimate test of loyalty and a test of skill. For Carnor Jax, it wasn't a difficult task at all. He executed his training brother with ease and without hesitation, and was elevated to the position of a Royal Guard. Kurkanos did the same, and both were elevated, feeding more into their rivalry. The years would pass and Jax would serve the Emperor faithfully. Yet, he may have been the only Royal Guard who was not indoctrinated with undying loyalty. The only one. The other guards had an almost cultist worship of their master Palpatine, believing him to be their life and their breath. But Jax, this was not true for him. His ambitions and desire for more personal power overrode any brainwashing and conditioning that the Empire administered. Jax knew that he was destined for greatness, but was biding his time, learning. Apparently during this time, he also managed to keep his Force sensitivity a secret. Either that or he was unaware of his true power. But no matter the reason, Palpatine never discovered his sensitivity, and so he never joined the Shadow Guards. This of course may have saved his life in the end, as he was not one of the guards present during the Battle of Endor. And he also didn't have his mind erased as most Shadow Guards did. With the destruction of the second Death Star, Palpatine had been officially defeated. Carnor Jax had been on Coruscant, and when news of Sidious's death reached his ears, Sate Pestage became the acting Emperor. Jax's path in life would change when the former Emperor's hand, Lady Lumaya, requested a detachment of the Royal Guard. Lumaya was one of the only hands to receive actual Sith training from Lord Vader. Devastated by his death, Lumaya declared herself a Dark Lady of the Sith and desired to continue the Sith lineage. When she received Jax as a part of her requested unit, she immediately recognized his potential in the Force and scouted him for official Sith training. Carnor accepted, seeing that this was finally the avenue for greater power that he had always desired. He would receive formal Sith training as a true apprentice, though with only the knowledge that Lumaya had. She was far from a proper Sith Lord, but at least she had the training from Vader and was currently searching for more Sith holocrons for enlightenment. Together, the two of them made large plans to take over the Empire, and that began with weeding out what remained of Palpatine's influence. They journeyed on to the world of Bostrida and systematically executed the prophets of the dark side. This was a Sith-adjacent cult devoted only to Sidious that continued to rule the Empire in his image. Lumaya then faded into the shadows, however, choosing to work in the background and to have her apprentice be the face of their operation. As a royal guard, Jax carried a significant amount of weight in the realm of Imperial politics, and under his master's direction, he infiltrated the Imperial Ruling Council, forming an alliance with Sarkev Quest. This was yet another one of the Emperor's hands who had integrated into the Imperial Council in order to spy on Palpatine's political enemies. He too wished to rule the Empire, and saw this as a golden opportunity. Using his influence, he backed Lord Jax as a potential figurehead for the throne, as Emperor. And so, the alliance of these dark side wielders began manipulating their way through the Imperial remnant, ascending closer to the throne. However, a massive wrench was thrown in their plan when Sidious emerged once more. Having used the ancient technique of essence transfer, Sidious had survived the Death Star and went into one of his clone bodies on Biss. Deep in the core, Palpatine revealed himself leading a brand new regime. A regime that he called the Dark Empire. He had barely any interest in the squabbling pieces of his former empire, spending the last 6 years letting them destroy themselves against the New Republic. This was all to test the strength of the New Republic before he made his own attack, and now that he was back, Sidious was unleashing his fleets, war machines, and superweapons left and right. For the first time, Sidious became a warlord. Without having to cover up his true power, the new Emperor was fleeing the dark side of the Force at his enemies with wild abandon and pure aggression. Lumaya, Quest, and Carnor Jax all decided that in order for their plans for power to succeed though, they needed to undermine and ultimately destroy Palpatine. They knew that going against him publicly would be a death sentence. Many of the Imperial remnants were flocking to his leadership, and the Dark Empire was simply too powerful to fight in the open. But Jax knew exactly how to take care of his old master. After all, he was still a royal guard. Carnor Jax returned to Palpatine's service and was elevated to a sovereign protector. This was a better position than he could have ever hoped for. He was now even closer to Sidious and was able to spy on his secrets. Not only this, but the new black armor with the red accents fit the Dark Lord persona quite well, and Jax began to believe that he was destined to become the Emperor. Meeting to secure support for Jax's plan were treated with the utmost security. Any person that disagreed with his treachery or anyone that acted as though they would reveal a plan to Sidious were immediately killed. There were a few close calls even, but due to Jax's loyal second-in-command, the traitors were dealt with. Meanwhile, the undercover Jax would discover how the Emperor had survived and how he was keeping himself alive. The clone bodies were the key, and there were dozens of them. Jax then requested an extremely large sum of credits from Quest, who would secure them by embezzlement from the Imperial Ruling Council. Using the funds, Jax bribed the Emperor's personal physician to sabotage the clone bodies, making them all unstable. The clone vessels were unable to handle Palpatine's incredible strength in the Force, and it was rapidly aging and deteriorating them, forcing him to search for brand new vessels or hop in between them. His final defeat came on Onderon when he attempted to seize the infant Anakin Solo's body for his own, but he was too weak to use his powers at full to defend himself against the Jedi. Due to the brave sacrifice of an Order 66 survivor, Palpatine was finally destroyed, and in the process, Carnor Jax had avenged his father. So in a poetic way, there were several people whom Palpatine wronged that had a hand in his demise. And that is how Carnor Jax, the Emperor's most trusted royal guard, ended up being the true reason behind his death. But Jax's story doesn't end here. He indeed ascended to the throne and became the new Emperor for a time. However, he had made a deadly oversight. The bribed position was captured by the New Republic, and eventually revealed his betrayal against the Emperor, including the name of the man who had bribed him. Hiding in the shadows of the interrogation room, a lone royal guard heard the confession and rushed back to Yin Chor where the remaining royal guards were in mourning. If this information were to leak, not only would the guard hunt him down, but Carnor Jax's claim to the throne would be overturned by a furious Imperial Ruling Council. To cover his mistake, Jax made a drastic choice and sent a legion of stormtroopers to annihilate all of the remaining royal guards. The troopers poured in the facility of Yinchor, and although the royal guards were able to kill hundreds of them, they could not hold out against the forces that came in endless waves. Only a single royal guard survived, and that of course would be Jax's old rival, Kur Kanos. Lord Jax was infuriated, knowing that Kur alone had the elite skill and the intel to completely destroy his rule. He had already planned on crushing the New Republic, but now he had to put these plans on hold to hunt down the last of the Guard. He ordered a massive bounty on Kanos' head, as well as sending an elite detachment of forces dedicated to finding the Guard. As the story plays out, Kur Kanos would ally himself with the rebels and fight off Jax's empire. Kur Kanos never intended on joining them and kept his allegiance to the memory of Palpatine and his dead brothers. However, his brainwashing would finally break down with the more time that he spent with the rebel leader, Mirith Sin. Jax would even find and torture Sin to bring Kanos to him. Ultimately though, it was Kur Kanos who got the upper hand, as he lured the Dark Lord to the place that had birthed their rivalry, the arena, the squall on Yinchor. There, the two finally faced off in an epic climactic duel. Carnor Jax's force abilities gave him the advantage, and he would even play a dirty trick by having an Imperial sniper set up far away just in case he failed. However, the showdown was spoiled when the rebel forces arrived. Mirith had done so both to help Kanos and to bring Jax to justice. Kanos was able to triumph over his rival, but problems arose when Sin wanted to arrest Jax and have him face a New Republic trial. This conflicted with Kanos' oath to kill him, and so in a brutal and a controversial decision to honor Sidious and his fallen brothers, Kur Kanos executed Carnor Jax. As his vibroblade pierced the chest of the Dark Lord Carnor Jax, Kur Kanos' final words to him were this: "Thus die all traitors." The story of Carnor Jax and Kur Kanos is told in the Crimson Empire comics, and personally, I highly recommend them. Crimson Empire 1 is only 5 issues and definitely worth a read. It's a very interesting peek into a galaxy that sort of finds itself in ruins following the Galactic Civil War, from the perspective of a royal guard. The New Republic is still reeling from the Dark Empire crisis, and we get a nice tight story told between two rivals. Along with this is a never-before-seen insight into the Royal Guards themselves. But anyway, my friends, we did a whole video all about Crimson Empire that we'll link below, the last Royal Guard and his story. But what do you think about this ultimate betrayal? The irony that a man sworn to be the Emperor's most loyal would turn out to be the source of his death. Even Palpatine never saw this coming. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, and tell us if you plan on giving Crimson Empire a read. Until next time, my friends, thank you so much for joining us here in the archives today, and as always, may the Force be with you.